Live from the BDN Studios, it's Bang and Dang.
That's awesome.
If you don't like that, then
You ain't black.
There we go. Outlaws and Gunslingers back again for some more remastered edition. This time we're leaving the wild, wild west. We're heading straight into the wild, wild Prohibition Era. The rise of organized crime, basically, is what happened here.
Yep.
And we're taking a look at one of the earliest bootleggers and maybe even one of the most successful in terms of the amount, how big his operation was. George Remus, a pharmacist turned lawyer turned bootlegger because it was more profitable than being a pharmacist or a lawyer. So
Okay.
he was born in Germany, Landsberg, Germany, to be precise, November 13th, 1876, to Frank and Marie Remus. He arrived with his family in the United States June 15th, 1882, departing from Norway on the Pfeifington to New York.
Oh.
They briefly lived in Maryland, then Wisconsin, and finally settled in Chicago, 1885. Age 14, George supported the family by working at his uncle's pharmacy because Remus's father, he was unable to work.
Oh. After graduating from the Chicago College of Pharmacy, age 19, damn, look at you, bud. Remus became a certified pharmacist. And you can't teach that. Well,
You can.
And he bought his first pharmacy at the age of 20. Look at this guy.
Yeah.
21. He owns his own pharmacy. Remus married Lillian Clough on the July 10th, 1899. He didn't stray away from the Germans, did he? After a quick courtship, within 5 years, Remus expanded, buying another drugstore. However, he soon tired of the long working hours of the pharmacy business. And by the age of 24, he had become a lawyer.
No, so just be a lawyer instead. Well, back then you didn't have to go to school for 8 years or whatever you got to do now.
Right. About this time, it was 1900. Remus, his wife, they had a little baby girl called Romola,
Romola Remus.
who became a child actress in silent films, playing cinema's first Dorothy Gale in the 1908 short film, The Wizard of Oz. She was only 8 years old when she did that.
Look at that, the cinema's first Dorothy.
Oh.
Remus, though, he attended the Illinois College of Law, which later merged with DePaul University College of Law, and was admitted to the Illinois bar in 1904.
Fantastic.
He specialized in criminal defense, especially murder, and he became quite famous due in large part to the highly publicized William Cheney Ellis murder case in 1914. It was in this case that Remus pioneered the transitory insanity defense that would evolve into today's temporary insanity that we've heard 100 times. By 1920, Remus was earning $500,000 a year, which is approximately $7.8 million today.
Oh, I wonder if this William Cheney guy is any good. Did we do him?
Gave that up. Some accounts say it was only $50,000 a year, which is still like $1 million a year.
Dude, $7 million a year. Holy shit. This dude is rich.
Apparently, bootlegging was better.
Well, this very same year, his marriage ended in a divorce after Remus began an affair with his legal secretary. That's how it always goes. Her name was Augusta Imogene Holmes. Holmes was a young divorcee with a young daughter named Ruth. Remus and Holmes, they got married. This happened in Newport, Kentucky in June of 1920, following the ratification of the 18th Amendment and the passage of the Volstead Act, January 17th, 1920. Prohibition began in the United States. Within a few months, Remus saw that his criminal clients were becoming very wealthy very quickly through the illegal production and distribution of alcoholic beverages. He decided, you know what? I'm going to do this myself. He became a criminal, using his knowledge of the law to escape punishment.
And it's because he memorized the Volstead Act and found a loophole which allowed him to buy distilleries and pharmacies to produce and sell bonded liquor for medicinal purposes under government licenses.
Yeah.
His employees would then hijack his own liquor so that he could sell it legally. So he's getting paid for the liquor, probably like insurance or some shit.
Right.
And then selling it 3 or 4 or 5 times the price he would sell it.
Damn.
That's crazy.
Well, he has to pay for their employees anyway, so.
Right. Remus, he then moved to Cincinnati, where 80% of America's bonded whiskey was located within a 300-mile radius, and he bought up most of the whiskey manufacturers. In 2 years, he had bought and sold a seventh of the bonded liquor in America.
Ooh.
Damn, dude.
This guy moved quick. In less than 3 years, with the help of his trusted number 2 man, George Connors, Remus made $40 million. Had about 3,000 people working for him. This dude is a freaking giant power.
And that's in 1900 money.
Yeah. He owned many of America's most famous distilleries, including the Fleischmann Distillery, which he bought for $197,000, a price which included 3,100 gallons of whiskey already.
Damn, that he probably
Instantly tripled his money.
Quadrupled his money on that shit.
Many small towns, such as Newport, Kentucky, became drinking towns where gamblers opened small casinos to entertain their drunken patrons.
Yeah. One of Remus's fortified distilleries was the so-called Death Valley Farm in Westwood, Cincinnati, which he purchased from George Garum. The outside world thought it was only accessible by dirt road, but it was actually located at 2656 Queen City Avenue. The alcohol was distilled in the attic of the house, then dumbwaitered below. A trapdoor was located in the basement, which was the entrance to a tunnel about 50 to 100 feet long, 6 feet underground.
Okay.
The bootleggers, they would then push the products along the tunnel out to a waiting car, usually making it safely away. It is believed to be one of the only locations never busted in the Cincinnati area.
Oh, shit.
In 1920, a raid by hijackers took place, but his armed guards, led by old John Garum, he said, "I'll work for you still," fired heavy volleys at the hijackers, and after a short fight, the wounded attackers left.
Oh.
And he never even got his shit taken.
Right.
Wow.
In addition to becoming the king of the bootleggers, Remus was known as a gracious host.
Yeah.
He held many parties, including a 1923 birthday party for his wife, Imogen, in which she appeared in a daring bathing suit, along with other aquatic dancers, serenaded by a 15-piece orchestra. That's a hell of a show back then, dude. 15-piece orchestra. Local children saw Remus as a fatherly figure. Some played on the estate. Jack Dahl recalls an episode in which Remus playfully tossed a boy into his Olympic-sized swimming pool and then gave him $10 to buy a new suit. Dahl states that a full boy's suit could be purchased for $1 in 1920.
Damn.
So this dude made $9, and he probably didn't even go buy a suit.
Right. In 1922, Remus and his wife had a New Year's Eve party at their new mansion nicknamed the Marble Palace.
Oh.
The guests included 100 couples from the most prestigious families in the area. As parting gifts, Remus presented all the men with diamond stick pins and gave each guest's wife a brand new car.
What?
At a similar party in June of 1923, while he was having problems with the government, it didn't matter to him because he gave each female guest, well, there was approximately 50 of them there, a brand new Pontiac as well.
Damn.
So you wanted to go to old Remus's parties because you were going to get something.
1925, Remus's plan to use his legal knowledge to evade the law went awry. He was indicted for thousands of violations of the Volstead Act, convicted by a jury that made his decision in under 2 hours. But he was only given a 3-year federal prison sentence. He spent 2 years in Atlanta Federal Penitentiary for bootlegging.
You sure did.
Well, I could do the 2 years and make $40-50 million.
Well, he completed the first 2 years of his sentence in the federal penitentiary in Atlanta. And then for the last year of his sentence, he was allowed to return to Ohio, where he was first lodged in the Miami County Jail in Troy, Ohio. After complaining he was being discriminated against by his Miami jailers, Remus successfully petitioned a federal magistrate to have himself relocated to the Scioto County Jail, where it appears he had good reason to believe he'd be more comfortable under the care of Sheriff Elza Cantor.
Well, was that the case? Well, upon his arrival in Portsmouth, according to a report followed by the Associated Press, George Remus of Cincinnati, mastermind of one of the most famous whiskey rings in the United States, was held in the office of the Sheriff of Scioto County today, due to the fact that the old Scioto County Jail is so crowded that prisoners are forced to sleep on the floor. Wow. Did he know that?
I guess not.
The AP reported that the new jail, which Remus was supposed to occupy, hardly will be completed before the remaining 28 days of his 360-day jail sentence will have been served. Let's let
He's
him
just
go.
going to camp out in the sheriff's office.
I mean, it's 28 days. Just let him go, man. Let him pay a fine for the final 28 days.
Well, there's a little backstory. We'll get back to Atlanta here.
During his stay in Portsmouth, Remus would be granted jail trustee, allowing him a great deal of liberty while being legally confined to the Sheriff Cantor's courthouse office. Yeah, he can just pretty much walk around that place as he pleases.
Well, he made local headlines capturing the public's attention. One said, Remus, prisoner in Seattle County Jail, assists in capture of another prisoner. Oh,
Wow.
In an unusual and unexpected turn of events, Remus helped sheriff deputies capture an escapee who had broke loose and run from the courthouse.
Oh.
The deputies fired several shots into the ground in an effort to stop the two men, but to no avail. Deputy Green Willis and George Remus, they ultimately hopped into a machine which is a police car, and went to Market Street, where they located one of the runaways. At that point, Remus started after him and overtook one of the prisoners. Damn,
shit.
what's this guy?
Look at him.
Deputy Willis would later joke, although Remus is short and stout, he can run like a deer. The Times report concluded, so Remus had a most novel experience, in as much as he himself is a prisoner in the Scioto County Jail. He took part in the capture of another prisoner. Look at that. Good guy, huh?
Fantastic. As the very first inmate of the new Scioto County Courthouse Jail, Remus appeared to genuinely enjoy his stay in Portsmouth. His sunny disposition has made him a favorite with all whom he came in contact, and his fellow prisoners have described him as a jolly good fellow. To celebrate his release, Remus would host a banquet in the county jail. He served them an elaborate dinner featured by chicken and ice cream.
Oh, shit.
Attired in a white coat, white apron, and Palm Beach pants. He personally served the guests. Look at this guy. The Columbus Dispatch would note that this was the third banquet he has personally served and paid for since his arrival at the Scioto County Jail 30 days ago. He was also a host to a banquet for the telephone girls recently.
Jeez.
This guy.
Just let him do whatever he wants.
I mean, come on. Let him
This
go.
is where it gets a little unfortunate for him, because in an interview granted at the dinner of his release, Remus announced that after his release, he intended to contest his wife's divorce, which we'll get to.
Oh, no.
And planned to write a book on his penitentiary and jail experiences. He claimed that while he has not as much money as some folks believe, he has plenty left to live comfortably for the remainder of his life.
Oh.
And that's where we take a little rewind to the Atlanta prison before he gets transferred to Scioto County.
Back in Atlanta. While he was in prison in Atlanta, Remus befriended another inmate, eventually confided in him that his wife, Imogen Holmes, had control over his money. The inmate was an undercover prohibition agent, Franklin Dodge, who was there to gather info of that very sort. And he was, oh, this is exactly what I came for. All right. Instead of reporting the information, Dodge resigned his job and began an affair with Remus's wife.
Sure did. Well, Dodge and Holmes liquidated Remus's assets and hid as much of the money as possible.
Oh, wow.
In addition, Remus's Fleischmann distillery was sold by Holmes. Remus's wife gave her imprisoned husband only $100 of the multi-million-dollar empire he created.
Oh, my.
Holmes and Dodge, they attempted to deport Remus and even hired a hitman to murder him for $15,000. Well, the would-be assassin didn't follow through because he feared being double-crossed, and he ended up telling Remus about the plot instead.
Wow.
There's some dirty shit happening here.
Late 1927, Mrs. Holmes filed for divorce from Remus. On the way to court, October 6, 1927, for the finalization of the divorce, Remus had his driver chase the cab carrying Holmes and her daughter through Eden Park in Cincinnati, finally forcing it off the road. I'm afraid, Miss Remus allegedly told her daughter. There was a chase through heavy early morning traffic. Through the center of traffic sped the closed car, turned in front of the taxi, forcing the driver to stop. Mrs. Remus jumped from the taxi and started to run. Remus leaped from the car, seized her by the wrist, drew her close to him, and fired a bullet into her abdomen. Oh! He then returned to his car. A motorist answered Mrs. Remus's call for help and took the dying woman and her daughter to a hospital. Physicians operated immediately, but to no avail. 2 hours later, Imogen Holmes dead. Remus went to the police station and surrendered.
He's your dead. Well, and then we go to the case, which the prosecutor in this case was 30-year-old Charles Phelps Taft II, who was son of Chief Justice of the United States and former President William Howard Taft.
Yeah.
He's also the brother of future Senator Robert Taft. Although he had lost his last big case against another bootlegger, Taft was seen as a man with a bright political future. The trial made national headlines for about a month, as Remus defended himself on the murder charge with the help of Charles Elston. His first wife and daughter stayed by him. His stepdaughter, she testified against him, and she depicted Remus as an abusive husband.
Oh. The defense portrayed Imogen as a woman terrified of her violent husband, wanted to testify against him, and killed for knowing too much. The prosecution presented a woman who had willingly participated in bootlegging and enjoyed its spoils.
Her dad
betrayed her husband for a corrupt government agent, stole her husband's assets, and tried to have him killed. Remus's first wife, who had accused him of physical violence and cruelty when they get divorced, they painted Imogen as an obsessed gold digger and declared self-defense for old Remus. Remus's many visitors during his time in jail and at his gutted mansion attested to a man distraught from betrayal. Remus repeatedly had outbursts or broke down in court. He claimed it was morally justified to act as he did. The newspapers printed it all.
I bet they did. Well, Charles Taft, though, he struggled to sway the jury with dry evidence instead of emotional appeals. Even if he got Remus's remarks struck after the fact, they still planted doubt. He made some major missteps, such as trying to tie Remus's secretary and driver as fellow conspirators of a coldly calculated murder. Dodge repeatedly denied having an appropriate relationship with Imogene, despite the evidence, which didn't help his credibility either.
Might as well just admit it, right?
And this is where it gets genius for him.
Okay. Remus, he pled transitory insanity, which he had used previously during his time as a defense lawyer. He emphasized his distress at his wife's betrayal. I mean, come on, I just spent 3 years in prison. And I get out and
They take all my money.
Right.
Try to kill me.
All my illegal money. Wow. Yeah, they tried to kill me. The jury deliberated only 19 minutes before coming out and said, guess what, bud? You can leave. So they acquitted old Remus, huh? Good for him. The state of Ohio committed Remus to an insane asylum since the jury found him insane. Prosecutors were thwarted by their previous claim, which was backed up by the prosecution's 3 well-known psychiatrists, that he could be tried for murder because he was not insane. And Remus was freed from the asylum after only 7 months.
Yeah, backfired on him. You can't claim that he was sane and then try to say he's insane.
Right.
Well, after his release from the institution in Lima, he was an informal tutor to another well-known Cincinnati lawyer, William Foster Hopkins, for a period of about 6 months. 6 years, sorry.
Damn.
George Remus later moved to Covington, Kentucky, which is across the river from Cincinnati, where he lived modestly the next 20 years without incident. He married for a third and final time to his longtime secretary, of course, Blanche Watson. He then ran a small contracting firm, Washington Contracting, until he suffered a stroke in August of 1950.
Ooh, 1950, huh? For the next 2 years, he lived in a boarding house in Covington in the care of a nurse. Remus died January 20th, 1952, 75 years old. He's buried beside his third wife at Riverside Cemetery in Falmouth, Kentucky. George Remus is sometimes credited as the direct inspiration for The Great Gatsby, though Gatsby might have been based on one of several figures such as Arnold Rothstein.
I mean, any rich guy that threw a party, basically. He was also featured in the 2011 Ken Burns documentary Prohibition. Texts written by Remus and that show were read by Paul Giamatti.
Oh, look at you, Paul.
Remus, he was portrayed by Glenn Fleischer on HBO's Prohibition Era series Boardwalk Empire, beginning in its 2nd season. And in this series, he's portrayed as having the quirk of referring to himself in the third person, which Remus was actually known to do.
George don't like that.
Basically, yeah. George Remus. First well-known bootlegger, as soon as that shit popped off, and look what happened.
Rose to a millionaire so fast, and all taken away so fast.
Due to a scumbag wife and an even more scumbag prohibition agent.
Wow.
And he got off with killing somebody.
He did.
Right after that. Look at that guy. So, yeah.
Broad daylight.
With many witnesses.
Many.
So, yeah, that's George Remus.
Oh, Georgie boy.
And the start of our Prohibition series, which we're just beginning because we got a lot more Prohibition things coming up, such as John Ashley. We got the McCoy guy.
Yeah.
Or where the term real McCoy comes from, because he sold the good shit.
Yeah.
And plenty of others. We're just getting started in the Prohibition era.
The Gator King or something like that.
Yeah, we'll be back next week for serial killers, though. After wrapping up Jeffrey Dahmer last week.
The Dahmer.
Or last month, we'll hit on somebody else. That's about, I don't know if we'll ever have somebody as sick and sadistic as Jeffrey was.
Oh, we will.
Yeah. So we'll be back next week for more serial killers. Remember, YouTube, subscribe, share it with your friends, all that good stuff, and Spotify, Apple. Leave us a review, share it with your friends, and all that good stuff. And we'll be back next week for some serial killing. So, see you then, Mother Bitch Again. Just